welcome. I would like to welcome you to yet another episode of the Unpopular podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to wherever you're watching. Hit the notification bell or whatever it's called to let you know when I'm dropping. I pretty much drop a video every day, I guess. But hit the notification. It will definitely mean a lot. Today's episode, I'm going to put on my GM hat. I did this before with the Washington Wizards. I'm going to do it again today with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to give you 5 steps how they can go from the bottom of the West to a championship. You're welcome, Minnesota. I'm also going to talk about chemistry. Does chemistry really matter when we talk about winning a championship? I'm going to talk about Alex Smith and his retirement from the NFL. And I'm going to finish it off with Breanna Stewart and if she is the greatest women's basketball player ever. But here's where we'll start. The pandemic hit everybody differently. There's people that's unemployed. There's people that's unemployment. There's people that job has clearly changed forever. There's people that's still working at home. The pandemic hit everybody differently. And that can be also said for sports. Of course, there was a time where we didn't have sports. There was the anniversary of The Last Dance, to me the greatest documentary series, I guess, about the Bulls that came out during the pandemic. A lot changed with the pandemic. And what you're seeing is almost every sport, I guess you could say, changing to positively flip what happened in the pandemic. What do I mean by that? Every sport is doing something to make more money. Some of it is subtle. Some sports is more subtle. Some sports are not. For instance, the NBA. The NBA now has a play-in tournament. Of course, we know that this is pretty much due to it gives more games, it gives more incentives for players to play, and there's not a lot more resting and load management, more games that the NBA can showcase, and it just brings more revenue. Of course, there's still I don't think there's any arena that has full fans. There's some that still don't have fans at all. They're trying to adapt with the play-in game. NFL, 17 game season. They understand that extra game is going to have more viewers, more fans in the stands. It generates more money. The MLB, I think they have extra innings. It's not really going over too well, but they have extra innings. The longer people watch, the more money they get. The Major League Hockey, they redid their regions, and now they have banks that are funding their regions. What I'm saying is this: every sport is doing something to, I guess you can say, every sport is doing something to try to recoup as much money as possible due to the fact of they had just had a pandemic and the way that they lived and the way that they made money changed. That can also be said for soccer. However, let me just say, the biggest news last week or a couple days ago actually was overseas as far as the football league or soccer league, whatever you want to call it. There are 12 teams that are trying to form a European Super League. What is a European Super League? It's like 12 teams. They have a proposal and they're trying to join their own league. Of course, you have multiple leagues overseas, but those 12 leagues would pretty much involve, Manchester United, Manchester City, Barcelona, Real Madrid, teams like that. This is causing pandemonium amongst the soccer fans, soccer world. And why is that? Like I said, there are almost every sport is trying to recoup the money that they lost. This also can be said for the European Super League. What it's going to do is it's going to take 12. They're trying to get 15. Right now they have 12. They're trying to take 15 teams and start their own league. Of course, it's kind of rivaling the Champions League, but the difference between the Champions League and the Super League that they're trying to form is it will only be the right now it's 12, but hopefully it would only be the 15 teams. The 15 teams would play against each other. That would win. Whoever wins out of that would win the Super League championship. And it seems like everybody hates this idea. And there's a lot of reasons why, and there's a lot of valid reasons why they don't like this idea. For one thing that we like about let's take college basketball for example. The one thing that we like about is while you have blue bloods and you have major schools, there are also smaller schools that can make it. What the Super League is trying to do, think of it, and I'll bring it back to college basketball. Think of it like this: Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky. You can throw in Texas. Take 15 big powerhouse schools and put them all in one conference. Call it the Blue Blood or Powerhouse Conference, right? The difference between what's usually happening and now is that the schools that those 15 teams that you just put in that power conference, all they do is play each other. That means North Carolina is never going to play Florida State. Duke is never going to play Virginia. They are only going to play each other. And then when there's March Madness comes, while you have the regular March Madness, the power conference or whatever you call it has their own March Madness. So you're not going to get any Oral Roberts. You're not going to get any Norfolk States. You're not going to get a George Masons back in 2005, 2006 when they made that run. You're not going to get any of that. You're not going to get no Davisons. You're not going to get any of that because they're keeping the 15 teams, 15 power conference teams together. And this is why a lot of people aren't liking what's happening with the Super League. First of all, you're breaking tradition. It doesn't give the smaller clubs the ability to try to win a cup. There's a lot of times where a smaller club would come up and they'll beat a Barcelona, they'll beat a Real Madrid. And honestly, the last few, outside of maybe Barcelona, they haven't really had much success. But because they're the big name clubs, they make the most money. That's why they're in the 12 right now. Like I said, they're trying to get 15. Then there's a lot of notable teams that have either said no or they just haven't been invited, like PSG. They have Neymar, they have Mbappe. They said no. You have Bayern Munich. They said no. It doesn't give the smaller clubs the ability to really compete for a cup and compete for a championship because they're not going to be. They don't. If you take out 15 of the top teams, that could crumble a lot of these lower clubs to the point where they might not have the ability to even have a team. Not only does this affect the lower team, this affects revenue of all the leagues. This affects the women's teams. People are so upset about this because all this is the rich getting richer. And honestly, it's the rich getting richer and the poor. I'm not going to say the poor, but the lower seeds or the lower teams suffer because, again, one, they don't have a chance to win a cup if you take their teams and just pretty much move them. And that's the thing with the problem with the Super League is even if you have the Super League, they will be unable to play the lower seeds anymore because they're not in the Super League. Now, you have to get the Premier. There's a lot of teams that are trying to join the Super League, and you'll have to get the Premier Leagues. The Premier Leagues. You have to get them to okay you going to the Super League. Now, if they do get the okay, here's the difference. If they get the okay from the Premier League to go to the Super League, you're still able to play other teams out of the league because you have the permission from the Premier League, which is pretty much the godfather of them all, pretty much. The problem with that is they don't have the permission, because everybody is getting upset about this. They don't have the permission from the Premier League. So because of that, they will just have to branch off from the Premier League altogether, which is the reason why they won't be able to play the lower clubs. They won't be able to play the clubs in the Champions League. They won't be able to play none of that. So the 12 to 15 teams that go to the Super League will only be able to play each other. Now, yes, you'll have, Cristiano Ronaldo playing. If Juventus goes, you'll have, Real Madrid goes, you'll have Leon Messi, but they're only playing each other. Like I said, it's like you bringing 10 people, right? It's like you going to a basketball court. You have the only ball, and you have 10 people, and there's about 20 people waiting for you to bring the ball to play, but you're only playing with that 10. That means there's other 10 people that's out there just chilling, like waiting to play, but they can't play. Here's the other problem about this. This affects the players as much as they think. The Premier League, I guess the president, whatever his name is, or the GM or whatever, came out and said that players that are go into this Super League, they are banned from the World Cup and the Euro League Championship. Meaning, Leo Messi won't be able to play for the World Cup. Neither can Cristiano Ronaldo. Neither can a lot of the great players that are. Luis Suarez won't be able to play for the fact that you'll get an Argentina team to go to the World Cup, but because Barcelona makes the decision to be in the Super League, now Leo Messi can't play for Barcelona. Same thing as Portugal. Portugal goes in, but because his ball club made the decision to play in the Super League, now Cristiano Ronaldo can't play for Portugal. And what's even worse about this is the players really have no say-so, because the club is going to make the decision altogether. Now, they can try, they can go to their agents and say, yo, I don't want to be a part of this. Get me out of this deal. And, of course, you can try it that way. But they don't really have a say-so in what they're going to, a lot of people are saying the players don't know what to do. The players just want to play. And the fact that you're trying to make a decision, and this decision will have a ripple effect on almost everything is the problem. Now, again, it doesn't seem like anybody outside of the owners of these ball clubs, there's nobody that likes this. People are coming out in droves. But it's because, like I said, you'll have no Cinderella stories. There's a lot of rivalries and a lot of standing traditions that are going to be broken because teams can't play each other. There's a lot of fans that get isolated. There's a lot of teams that may not survive this. However, the 12 to 15 teams that join the Super League, they're just going to get richer because the money stays in house. Of course, you're going to get the best players playing all the time. But again, and then also, how does this affect the players that play in the Champions League? Like, you'll never get, if this happens, you're not going to get a Barcelona going up against PSG anymore. You're not going to get a beat going up against Leo Messi. You're not going to get, Ronaldo going up against a Neymar. Like, you're not going to get that anymore. And that's why fans are so upset about this. If you ask me, and we all know this, we understand that the pandemic hit differently, man. The pandemic hit everybody like seismically. However, you still get money. And this makes your ball club richer and this makes you richer, but you're already rich. Now, again, I'm not counting nobody's pockets, but don't break tradition. You know what I mean? There's a reason why. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a soccer expert. I'm not going to sit here and say that I spend my days watching soccer 24/7, because I do not. That would be a lie. But I will say this. I understand tradition. I understand the rivalry between, I don't know, the Lakers and the Knicks, or the Boston Celtics and the Knicks. And even though the Knicks for a while, it's different this year, but for a while they haven't been good, you're not just going to scrap them out and have the Lakers, Knicks, have the Lakers, Boston, Miami, Golden State all join one league, and then everyone else just gets excluded. That just doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense if you're trying to hold tradition, if you're going to exclude fans. You're doing this. Yes, I understand that Barcelona fans are still going to be able to see Real Madrid, Manchester United. Those fans are still going to be able to see the games, but you're going to isolate so many fans to a point that they're going to, you're going to lose fans as well, because people are upset about this. Now that there's PSG fans you're not going to get, because they're not going to be able to see it, and they're not going to be able to, the fan experience is going to die. The Bayern Munich fans, I understand that they made a stand, which is good. It's just, this doesn't make sense outside of the rich getting richer. And that's why people are so upset about this. Now, you're asking, and this is why soccer players make so much money. Like, they make the most money. It's because they understand how important, the player, let me say this. The players are extremely important in soccer. And a lot of people are saying you might have to get to a point where the players boycott. Now, if the players boycott in soccer, they can make some noise. If you roll out of Barcelona and none of the players want to play, or a lot of the big time players don't play, you can make this not happen. Now, are they going to do that? I have no idea, but you can make it happen. A lot of British commentators and stuff are looking for the players to boycott and go on strike about this, because it looks like the 12 to 15 teams that are trying to join or build the Super League are already on board. So again, man, this is the biggest news, because forever, of course there's a lot of leagues over. There's La Liga, there's the Champions League. There's a lot. I think there's like 9 leagues overseas, right? And of course, the Premier League is pretty much the umbrella over the whole thing. And you still have, it's like to play in the Premier League, I believe, to play in the Premier League, I believe it's the top 4 teams of every league can go and pretty much have their say so who's the best. The problem is that's not going to happen anymore, because the 12 to 15 teams, the Premier League has already said they're going to have to break away from that completely and start their own, meaning that you won't get the top 4 teams out of a lot of the Champions League or the La Liga, because Barcelona would be there, Real Madrid would be there, Manchester United, Manchester City. There'll be a lot of teams that is. It's unfortunate, because like I said, it's unfortunate that if this continues, this only benefits the owners of these clubs. This only benefits the owner of Arsenal and AC Milan and Chelsea and Juventus and Liverpool. Like, these clubs, bro, this will completely affect and change the Premier League, the Champions League, La Liga, and fans are upset about that, and rightfully so. Like, you're not gonna get the Cinderella stories. You're not gonna get the lower teams that have a chance to knock off a juggernaut that you can call, like Barcelona and stuff. And it's crazy that a team valued for $4.76 billion, which is Barcelona, is doing this to make money. They're all doing this to make money. They're not doing this for the fans, because the fans are completely against this. They're not doing this for exposure. They're doing this for money. And it's unfortunate and that's why there's so many people up in arms and upset about this. So again, I don't know what's going to come of this. We're going to have to keep watching and see. But if this happens, understand that the way that we see overseas soccer and the way that it's played, the teams, the alignment of these teams is all going to have to change. And that's unfortunate because there's a lot of teams that, and there's a lot of rivalries that's going to be deaded because, like the rivalry between PSG and Barcelona due to the top players, that's going to be gone. The rivalry between Juventus and PSG is going to be gone. The rivalry between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich is going to be gone. And it sucks, man. It sucks. And again, we're just it's still in the planning process, but it looks like and they've been talking about this for a minute. Like this has been in the works for a minute, but it looks like now that it's growing steam and it's building steam, and people are upset about it. Like they are pissed, but it looks like it might go through, man. So you're just gonna have to wait and see. But just understand that if this European Super League happens, this will change the way that soccer leagues overseas is ran. The way that we see the sport, it'll affect viewership, it'll affect networks, it'll affect so much. And you'll pretty much you're going to cut out fans, and you're going to cut out blog clubs, you're going to cut out rivalries, you're going to cut out underdogs, and you're going to keep the money in house. And really this only benefits club owners and stuff to make more money and to recoup from the pandemic. So, we just have to wait and see what happens from it. So that's that. Moving forward, it's time to put on my GM hat. And I did this before. I've said this before. I come in sometimes and I look at a team and I'm going to put on my GM hat because I say this all the time. I say there has to be a point where you just get tired of being in the rebuild mode. And maybe it's because you just don't know how to get out of it. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of teams in the NFL, in the NBA, and MLB that have just been at the bottom for so long. And I did this with the Wizards. We all know I'm a Wizards fan, and I was truthful, and I helped them get to the championship. Now, if they listen to me, I don't know. I will say this. Ever since I dropped that episode, they're on a 5-game win streak. That's all I'm saying about that. That's all I'm saying. But what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to give you 5 steps how to fix the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, currently, the Minnesota Timberwolves are in the bottom of the Western Conference. They're sitting 15 as we're recording this. They're 15-43. They've been bad for a minute. Now, I will say the Minnesota Timberwolves is different from a lot of people. Like they're different from the Wizards. They're different from a lot of people, even though they're not the best. I mean, like I said, they're 15-43. They have pieces. They have Karl Anthony Towns. They have Anthony Edwards, who's number 1 overall pick. They have Jared Culver. They have Malik Beasley. They have people. But here we go. Let me time to put on the hat. Time to put on the GM hat. I'm going to help the Minnesota Timberwolves go from the bottom of the West and the bottom of the NBA to championship status. Let's get it. Number 1, change everyone in the front office. I know, man. I know. It's just that simple. Number 1, change everyone in the front office. There has to be a certain point where you just get tired of being a rebuilding team. You get tired of playing for a position. And there's a reason why the Minnesota Timberwolves has these many good players, but they're all young. Because they're always playing for a top 10 roster spot in the draft. Now, again, that's cool for some people, but that cannot be cool for this club, especially when you have the talent that you have. Fire everybody, bro, that is in the front office. And I'm not saying fire the coach because the coach is cool. Just fire the front office because they clearly don't. While they draft, and I'll say this, my fault. And a lot of people say that they're good. They're good drafters. Like you want to keep them because they're good with the draft. Well, it's not that hard when you have the number 1 overall pick 4 years in a row. It's not that hard when you're drafting in the top 5 every year. It's not that unless you get like what's his name? Unless you get an Anthony Bennett from unless you're Cleveland, it's not that hard to mess up a top 5 pick. So when they was like, oh man, the one thing Minnesota does, they're really good at drafting. Look at they drafted Karl Anthony Towns. They drafted KG back in the day. They drafted Anthony Edwards. It's not hard to mess up a top 5 pick. Trust me, it's not hard to mess up a top 5 pick. I am not in no war rooms. I'm not in the front office, none of these people, but I understand if I'm looking at a draft, and I got for instance, let's look at this draft coming up. If I'm looking at the draft, like, all right, I got the number 1 overall pick. Okay. I don't want to mess this up. But we're gonna go with that one kid from what's that kid? From Oklahoma State. I don't know if he's good or not. But I know Cade Cunningham, yeah. A lot of people are saying he's good. If we looked at the tape, he's better than everyone he's played against. Yeah, Cade Cunningham is the one. Like, it's not that hard. Even if you get the 2nd overall pick. All right, damn, we wanted Cade Cunningham. We wanted Cade, but who's next? Well, we don't really need a big because we have Karl Anthony Towns. But there is that kid. What's his name? Gonzaga kid. Jalen Suggs. Yeah, a lot of people were saying he could go number 1, but, Cade Cunningham wins. So we're going to pick that guy. I understand. It was a tough pick, and we don't really need a big, so we're not going to go with Evan Mobley, but we're going to go with Jalen Suggs. It's not that hard. But apparently, it just doesn't work out. It does not work out for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you have to look at the front office. I understand that A-Rod and some other and their group just bought some part of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Maybe he can change it. I don't know. But number 1, the first thing you have to do is change the front office. Change everyone, get them out of there, and bring on people that understand how to not only build a team, but how to construct and how to rise. Bring talent. You know what I mean? Because it's just there's so much talent on Minnesota Timberwolves, and you look every night, man. Like I said, you got an Anthony Edwards, you got a Josh, a Koji, you got a Nazi Reed, you got Jared Vanderbilt. Like, you have so much young talent, they just can't get it right. So number 1, change everyone in the front office and bring on some competent people that are good, not only in the draft, but that are good building a team. Number 2, you have to figure out if Cat is really a piece to build around. And when I mean that is, we all know that Karl Anthony Towns is a good player. We all know that Karl Anthony Towns is an exceptional player and one of the best bigs in the league. However, there's a difference between talent and a cornerstone for a franchise. There's a difference between someone that's uber talented and someone that you can build around. And I don't know if Karl Anthony Towns is someone that you can build around because you've had so many people around you and it just hasn't worked. And don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming him, and I'm not saying he's trash, because he's not trash. But you've tried your hardest to build your team around Karl Anthony Towns, and while he'll go out and give you a 40-piece or a 50-piece, or he'll go out and give you points, I don't know if he's a player to build around. So you have to really make that decision. Is Karl Anthony Towns a player to build around? Now, I'm not saying that you give up Karl Anthony Towns, but what I'm saying is Karl Anthony Towns may not be a number 1. He may be a number 2. It's kind of like Paul George is not a number 1. We've realized that. While he has the skill set and the talent to be a number 1, we put him in a number 1 situation when he was in Indiana. And while they had some really good runs going up against LeBron James and Miami Heat those years, Paul George has not been number 1. They just put up a graphic the other day. Say like Paul George is like 6 for 50 in crunch time. That ain't good for people that want to know. But we're not going to negate the fact that Paul George is still a great player. He's just not a number 1. Karl Anthony Towns is a great player, but he's not number 1. if you figure out that Karl Anthony Towns is not a number one player, bring on a star or bring on another player that is a number one. No, and we'll talk about D'Angelo Russell in a second, but it's not D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell's not a number one. While he was the number one in Brooklyn that year, they went to the playoffs. They had an entire squad. Karl Anthony Towns, again, you have to make the decision. If he is number one, then you have to keep building around him. But I will say you've tried this several times and it hasn't worked. Like, you've tried to build around Karl Anthony Towns several times and it hasn't worked. So you really need to figure out, are we building around a number two or a number three piece, or are we truly building around a number one? That's what you have to figure out. You have to figure out, right now, Karl Anthony Towns is the face of the franchise. He is a franchise player, but is he truly a franchise player? And if he's not a franchise player, you have to figure out, do you have one on the roster? A lot of people said that could be Anthony Edwards. We don't know. But if you do not have a franchise player on the roster, you need to get one. I understand that it's not that easy with contracts and salary cap. I get that. But hell, make it work. That's what you gotta do. You gotta make it work. That kind of goes hand in hand with number one. You need to bring in people that can bring in. I understand that Minnesota, especially with the weather and where it is in the world, Minnesota is not a free agent destination, like attractive free agent destination. But if you can sell the fact that you have Karl Anthony Towns, you have Anthony Edwards, and you have young pieces, maybe you'll get a star. You know what I mean? So, but you have to figure out, again, number two, figure out if Karl Anthony Towns is a number one, is a building, like, is someone that you can build a team around. If he is, you need to do a better job at that. And if he's not, you need to identify or figure out how you can get a number one, or if you have a number one on the roster. A lot of people think of maybe Anthony Edwards, and I think it could be. I'm not 100% sure. Again, he's still a rookie. We need to figure out, but right now they're trying to figure out, is he another player that just gives you a lot of buckets but isn't really someone that you can build around, or is he a player that you can actually call a cornerstone player? For instance, and again, I'll give you another example. There's a difference between a Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is clearly a number one, and he's clearly a building block. Hell, we're seeing what Steph Curry's doing this year. He is clearly a number one, a centerpiece. He's someone that makes a team better. He's an alpha male. He's someone that is clearly someone you can build a team around. Clearly. Then you have people like, let me give you another situation. Boom. And this is in fact, then you have people like Russell Westbrook. Now, again, Russell Westbrook is a great player. He will go down as a Hall of Famer. He'll go down one of the best players, especially in the guard position, to ever play. When we talk about the triple doubles and we talk about energy, we talk about everything that Russell Westbrook everything that Russell Westbrook brings to the game is Hall of Fame worthy. Outside, like I said, the energy, the triple doubles. A lot of people just want to scoff at the triple doubles. If it was so easy, everyone would do it. However, while Russell Westbrook is talented, we've seen there is a ceiling that you have with a team that has him as the center block. Like, and don't get me wrong. Again, Russell Westbrook is great, but you're always will be strapped, or you'll always hit a certain plateau with Russell Westbrook. And we've seen when Russell Westbrook is the building block, you're really only getting out. You may get out of the first round. When Steph Curry, you can make it to the finals. And these are both great players in their own right. So what I'm saying is, again, figure out if Karl Anthony Towns is that alpha, is that building piece. And if he is not if he is, build around him better. If he's not, try to bring a number one in there. Number three, the worst thing that you can be is a team that is at the bottom of the standings and have no cap space. And when you're paying Michael Beasley $13 million, when you're paying Karl Anthony Towns $29 million, when you're paying D'Angelo Russell $28 million, when you're paying Ricky Rubio $17 million, it ain't gonna work. They thought bringing in Ricky Rubio was going to help, but it didn't. They thought, what I would say is, you need to shore up some cap space. You need to figure out a way to bring some cash away so you can bring players on, bring quality players on. And I say that to say, number 3, I would look to trade D'Angelo Russell. Again, D'Angelo Russell has dealt with injuries this entire season. He's not a number one, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not a number one. And I don't know if he has not been a quality number 2 or number 3 this year because he hasn't been there. Your best ability is availability, and he has not been available. So I would look to trade D'Angelo Russell. You get $28 million off the books, and that gives you enough money to bring on a star or bring on a better player. D'Angelo Russell's great, and it's going to be hard to trade him, seeing as though, what happened, his last output in Golden State, and now, of course, with the injury. But I would look to get off that contract. That contract is a tough contract. It's a big contract, and it's not doing anything but weighing down the team. So that would be number 3. Try to trade D'Angelo Russell. Get that $28 million contract off the books so you can work and try to build. And number 3 kind of goes along with number 4. You need to bring on a leader. Now, a lot of people thought, when I say bring on a leader, I'll say look at the impact that Chris Paul is having for the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns went from like 11th in the East in the West to being 2nd in the West right now. Bring on a leader, and that's the thing. Let's look at the ages of this team, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves. 24, 22, you have 31, but that's Ed Davis. Ed Davis ain't, no. You have 19, 25, 27, 20, 24, 21, 22, 21, 30. That was Ricky Rubio. Again, they thought Ricky Rubio was going to be a leader. He has not been. 25, 25, and 21. So the average player on this team is 25 years old, pretty much. Actually, no. 24 years old is pretty much the average player on this team, the age-wise. Wow, that's good. And while I said that they're littered with talent, they don't have a leader. And Karl-Anthony Towns has not been that leader. Hell, Karl-Anthony Towns is 25. Jake Layman is older than Karl-Anthony Towns. So of course I understand that there's only one Chris Paul. There's only one. I get that. But you need to bring in an older vet that could be a leader. Hell, you see the change, especially in the leadership position that Rajon Rondo is having with the Clippers. And this is the same Clippers that have Paul George and that has Kawhi Leonard. But you bring on a leader. That's a misnomer for a lot of people. A lot of people think just because you're talented, you can be a leader. Just because you might be the best player on a team, you can be a leader. We've seen several times that you can be the best player, but you're not the leader. And that does not, like, that's not a shot on the best player, but that doesn't mean you're a leader. Hell, Golden State, when KD was by far the best player. However, he was not the leader. You had Steph Curry was the leader. Kawhi Leonard was the leader for the Clippers, but as you saw, Kawhi Leonard might not be the best leader. That doesn't take away from the fact that he's the best player, but he's not the best leader. So you need to bring in a leader. Bring in someone that can be a Chris Paul and that can guide these people. They thought that Ricky Rubio was it, but Ricky Rubio has not been. So that's the next thing you need to do is bring a leader. Number 4, you need to bring a defender. Bruh, you look up and down this roster. Malik Beasley don't play no defense. Jared Culver don't play defense. Ed Davis is cool, but he don't really get that much burn. Anthony Edwards doesn't play defense. Jake Layman, no. Jaden McDaniels, no. Jordan McLaren, no. Jalen Nolan, no. Josh Okogie, no. Nazi Reed, no. Ricky Rubio, most definitely not. D'Angelo Russell, most definitely not. Karl-Anthony Towns, no. They don't have a defender on this team. They don't have a Robert Covington. They don't have a PJ Tucker. They don't have a what's his name? Draymond Green. They need to bring in at least a defender. You need to bring in a leader. That's number 4. Number 3. And number 4, you need to bring in a leader. A defender. Because you have nothing but scores, which is cool, but you don't. These aren't elite scores here. Like they cool, it is, but nah, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work, my guy. It's not gonna work at all. And the last thing, uh, actually, that's it. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's it. Number one, you need to change and change everybody and replace everybody in the front office. Number two, you really need to figure out if Karl Anthony Towns is a number one and someone that you can have the face of your franchise, or is he just a really good player or a really good number two? And if not, and if he is a really good number two, try to bring in a number one. If that is Anthony Edwards, go that route. But if it's not, try to get that. Number three, you really need to figure out. I would say, get off of D'Angelo Russell's contract and try to trade D'Angelo Russell. I understand that D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns are like best friends, but it's a business. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Hell, Miami Heat, they all were, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and D Wade were all best friends. But LeBron James was like, hey, yo, I love y'all, but I got to go. So trade D'Angelo Russell. You need to bring on a leader because you have a lot. I mean, the average age of the Minnesota Timberwolves is pretty much 24 and a half years old. You need to bring on a leader that can. You need to bring on a Chris Paul type, because again, you see what Chris Paul's doing for Phoenix. Bring on a leader that can guide this team, and you need to bring on a defender. There's not one defender on this team. Now, what about Karl Anthony Towns? No. So bring on a defender. And that is how you fit. That's how, again, that is how I just brought the Minnesota Timberwolves from the bottom. Now we're here. I just got them a championship. Now, if they listen to me, they listen to me. If they don't, hell, they can keep shooting for the number one overall pick. Good luck. But you're welcome, Minnesota. Not to mention, hell, they can't even do that. Because with the trade with D'Angelo Russell, if they even get the fourth pick, if they're outside of the top three, that pick goes to Golden State. So you're like, that sucks, man. That sucks for Minnesota. But again, there you go, Minnesota. I just helped you. Whether you listen or not, that's up to you. You can lead them to water, but you can't make them drink. Moving forward. So KD got injured again. Now, luckily, it's not as serious. It was like a knee contusion or a thigh contusion. It's day to day. It's not as serious as, of course, ACL or meniscus or whatever like that. So that's good. But Steve Nash said something, and of course, media pundits have been talking about it all week. Steve Nash pretty much said, we may not get our entire team to play together at all this season. Of course, we know that Brooklyn, they got some hitters. They got KD, they got Kyrie, they got James Harden, and those three all together, I think, have only played 7 games together. Now, I think they're 6-1 or 7-0 in those games together, but they've only played 7 games together. And of course, that's not including DeAndre Jordan or Blake Griffin. So the question comes up, does chemistry really matter? Does chemistry really matter when we talk about winning a championship? Can you just roll out a team full of great players and win? And there are so many examples of why chemistry really does matter. And it doesn't matter if you have the best team. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have the best players. Chemistry is incredibly important. For instance, I'll give you some examples. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I understand. I hear people saying, "But Jay, look at all those great players. You got Tom Brady." I understand that. But do you remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the beginning of last season, when they were getting smacked by the Saints and getting smacked by all these teams because they were building that they didn't have any chemistry. There was no offseason. They still were learning each other. Look at that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team in the beginning of the season and look at the one that won the championship and how they were firing on all cylinders. That is chemistry. That is a team that understands who they are. That's a team that built chemistry. Look at the LA Lakers. The beginning of the season, they weren't that good. I mean, you had LeBron and AD, but they were still trying to learn each other. You brought in Dwight, like they didn't know how to play with each other, and they were losing games that they shouldn't have lost. When you get to the end, and of course after the pandemic, but you get to the end, that team was firing on all cylinders. AD knew exactly what Bron wanted to do. Bron knew exactly what AD wanted to do. That's built chemistry. Hell, I can go on a bigger scale. Look at Team USA, the one that they didn't win anything. I think they won like maybe bronze or something. The one that recently, had Donovan Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, had them. They didn't have any chemistry, and it showed. They didn't. They got smacked by teams they shouldn't have got. Hell, nobody expects Team USA to go anywhere and lose, but they couldn't win because they couldn't build chemistry. You put all these great players, all these players in, and again, I understand that there was a lot that opted out. Like, I understand that. But you put all these great players on one team, that doesn't ultimately mean that you're going to win win it all. Again, Team USA lost like Serbia. And again, I understand they played against good players, but they shouldn't have lost. Another example. The Clippers. The Clippers are going to the Clippers last year is going to the same thing that Brooklyn's doing. You bring in great players, but because of injury, because of load management, they all don't play together. So when you place them in the playoffs, and again, I understand that there was different circumstances, but when you place the Clippers in the playoffs, they don't know how to play. Paul George doesn't get a feeling what Kawhi Leonard wants to do. Kawhi Leonard doesn't get a feeling what Montrezl Harrell wants to do. Montrezl Harrell doesn't get a feeling what Paul George wants to do. Paul George doesn't get a feeling what Lou Williams want to do. So it's like you have all these players, and then they end up losing to Denver. So I say all that to say, yes, chemistry is more important than having great players. Hell, the reason why, now again, I understand you had Clay and Curry and Draymond Green, but one big reason why Golden State won in 2015 and 16 was 2014-15, I believe. That's the year before 73 and 9. Was because they had so much chemistry at the end of the year that they now. And I also understand Kyrie got hurt. I understand Kevin Love got hurt, but that Golden State team was firing on all cylinders when we talk about chemistry. Curry knew exactly what Clay wanted to do and what Draymond Green. Draymond Green knew exactly what Harrison Barnes wanted to do and Moise Spates. Like, chemistry matters. And I say all that to say this. It's starting to get a little concerning that not only does the best players on Brooklyn continue to get hurt, but they haven't played together. And again, I'm not saying that they're not good enough to make it to the finals. I'm not saying that they couldn't win, because they still could. I mean, they do have relationships off the court, like KD, Kyrie, and James are pretty much best friends, but it is getting a little concerning that you're seeing teams like the Heat. You're seeing teams like Milwaukee. You're seeing, of course, the Lakers and stuff. These teams have built they've built chemistry, and you're going up against a team, while on paper, Brooklyn is far better than anyone on paper, but chemistry-wise, they haven't played with each other. So while some people would say, oh, no, it's a lock that they're going to win a championship, that's not a lock. While I think that they're good enough to win, they do need that chemistry. They do need to play alongside each other and understand, while I can be best friends with somebody, it's like this. You can be best friends with somebody, but you don't know how somebody lives until you live with the person. So, you know what I'm saying? I think that they need to get back on the court. But again, there's only 15 games left in the season, I believe. So I don't know. It's very rare that you see a team that just compiles stars and just win off the brink. While, hell, and a lot of people say, but what about the Toronto team? Well, Toronto team had all the chemistry in the world. They just needed one superstar, and they got it in Kawhi Leonard, not to mention Golden State just broke down at the end. So I just, it's starting to concern me. Again, I'm glad that it's not serious. The injury is not serious with KD, and it is just day to day, so it's not like life altering or anything. But it is getting a little concerning that their entire team has not played with each other at all. There's not been a game. Let me say this. I don't know if that's true, but I know that they haven't played more than like 3 games where their entire team, which is KD, Kyrie, James Harden, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Landry Shamet, Joe Harris. There's not a game where they all have played together. And of course, LaMarcus Aldridge being there definitely was a wrench in it as well. And it also hurts that now he's out. So you were trying to learn him. He's out now. So somebody else has to get back in the rotation. So it's definitely concerning. And it's definitely something to watch out for. And I can attest that injuries and chemistry can and probably will, if they don't win, can and will be the reason that Golden State does not win. I mean, not Golden State. I'm sorry. The Brooklyn Nets does not win. Chemistry and injuries or injuries. So speaking of injuries, moving forward, Alex Smith retires from the NFL after 16 years. What a lot of people like to do, which I think we have to stop doing, is if you don't, and this is what they do this a lot with NBA as well. If you're not a Hall of Famer or they did this with Julian Edelman the other day. Just because you may not be a Hall of Famer does not mean you did not have a successful career. Julian Edelman had an incredible career. I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Julian Edelman did something that not a lot of people can do, and he's multiple Super Bowl champion. Like, that's Julian Edelman. Shouts out to him. A lot of people will look at Alex Smith, and while, of course, they'll applaud what he did, coming back from the incredible or the horrific leg injury and 17 surgeries and all that. And a lot of people outside of that would say, like, outside of that moment and the comeback process and winning comeback player of the year, a lot of people will say he didn't have a successful career because I don't think he'll be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's done enough, even outside of the injury, to be a Hall of Famer. But Alex Smith has had an incredible career. He's a former number 1 overall pick back in 2005. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He was a NFL passing leader in 2017. He has over 35,000 career passing yards, and he has a career passer rating of 87. That tells me efficient. While no, we know Alex Smith isn't the gunslinger. We know Alex Smith isn't the one to throw the ball deep at times. He's not. He's the safe pick. He is the ultimate Teddy Bridgewater. But that doesn't mean he had an unsuccessful career. Again, winning comeback player of the year and coming back from hell, nobody thought, not even the organization, when we saw that injury, nobody thought that he was going to come back. And the fact that he did and came back and was very effective for Washington and won comeback player of the year is huge. And he's had a very successful career. Hell, that's why a lot of people, even though he wasn't up to, number 1 overall status, that's why I never say that Kwame Brown was a bust. Now, he was not good enough to be a number 1 overall pick, and in that instance, he definitely underachieved. But the man was in the league for like 12 years. You can't be no bust and be in the league for 12, 15 years. And Alex Smith retiring after 16 seasons is a success. You know what I mean? Again, he never won a championship. I think he did play in an AFC championship one time when he was with Kansas City, but he just, it's unfortunate, but Alex Smith will go down as a very good quarterback. Now, no, I don't think that's MVP worthy. I mean, I don't think that's Hall of Fame worthy, but that doesn't mean that Alex Smith didn't have a successful career. So, shouts out to Alex Smith. Shouts out on the retirement. Shouts out for coming back and beating the odds, man. Again, nobody thought, hell, even his family was like, yo, you say you want to go, you want to do what? You trying to come back? Hold on now. Wait a second, bro. I just witnessed your leg fall off, bro, and had to sit through all them surgeries. They talking about your life is on the line. You might die. Like, and you're trying to go back on the field. So I understand how tense that house could have been. But shouts out for Alex Smith, man. You know what it is? Shouts out for, and I do like this. I do like this. Shouts out for Alex Smith for going out on his own terms. An injury like that, an injury like that usually doesn't allow you to go out on your own terms. And the fact that he was able to bounce back, even won comeback play of the year, and he's able to say, I'm going to retire while standing on 2 feet, is definitely a triumph of its own. So shouts out to Alex Smith for his retirement, and I wish nothing but the best for him moving forward. So shouts out to you, man. And lastly, when we look at women's basketball, of course you got big names. You have the names that pretty much ring bells in everyone's ears. Like you have the Maya Moores, you have the Diana Taurasi's, Candace Parkers, you have the Lisa Leslie's, you have the Cheryl Swoops, you have the Rebecca Lobos, Tina Thompson's. These are great. These are players that you can't talk about the WNBA, the legacy, the lineage. You can't talk about, like, there would be no WNBA without those incredible women. And I think the same can be said when it's all said and done about Breanna Stewart. Breanna Stewart, it's starting to get to a point where you can't talk about the game of women's basketball without Breanna Stewart. And it's not just WNBA, it's EuroLeague, it's college, it's overseas, Team USA and FIBA and stuff. Breanna Stewart is, let me just read off some stuff. And where's this all coming from? Breanna Stewart recently won EuroLeague championship and the EuroLeague MVP. This is coming off of winning another WNBA championship and another WNBA finals. So her resume is just not all of it, but here's some. EuroLeague champion, EuroLeague MVP, 2-time WNBA champion, 2-time WNBA Finals MVP, 4-time NCAA champion, Olympic gold medalist, 2-time FIBA gold medalist, and a 2-time WNBA All-Star. When we talk about accomplishments and we talk about history, Breanna Stewart is getting to that point where what I do for the Unpopular podcast page on Twitter, on Instagram, is I'll do a question of the day. I'll put two players together and pretty much say who's better or this and the third. And one time I did Breanna Stewart and Nneka Agbumike. Now, no disrespect to Nneka, but boy, oh boy, the messages I got, this is disrespectful to Breanna. Breanna is better than her by a landslide. And again, I agree, but it's just that Breanna Stewart, and she's still young. When it's all said and done, Breanna Stewart, in my opinion, could and probably will, if she continues this pace, will go down as the greatest women's basketball player ever. Again, that's no disrespect to Maya Moore, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, Rebecca Lobo, Tina Thompson, Lisa Leslie. That's no offense to any of those. But Breanna Stewart is different, and she wins wherever she goes. But that's UConn. Take her off of those UConn teams. You think they're winning 4 championships? It's kind of like you take Anthony Davis off of that Kentucky team. You think they're winning that national championship? Again, shouts out to Breanna Stewart, man. When it's all said and done, I believe if she continues this pace, and I think she will because she's still young, and she had a catastrophic injury, and she had a catastrophic injury and came back and still won a WNBA championship and still won a WNBA Finals MVP. And she was the best player on the floor by a country mile. And they played the Aces, I believe. This is the same floor that had Sue Bird, that had Aja Wilson, who won the MVP that year. And she still was the best player by a country mile. Again, shouts out to Breanna Stewart. And I believe that when it's all said and done, she will be considered one of, if not the greatest, women's basketball player of all time. And there you have it. That's been this week's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate all you guys for listening. I appreciate all you guys for watching. Please subscribe to wherever you're listening. Come over to the YouTube, man. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the notification bell. I mean, it would mean a lot. You know what I mean? I definitely want you guys to get a full experience of an episode of the Unpopular Podcast if you're just listening. But I do appreciate your listening. I appreciate everyone that supports me. It definitely means a lot, man. If you want an Unpopular Podcast hoodie, sweatshirt, t-shirt, joggers, go to the link in the description below. I have an Unpopular Podcast store. You can get anything. And for people that don't know, if you click on an item, even if you don't like the color, there are multiple colors. Just click on the item and you'll see it. There's multiple colors. So if you wanna support the podcast with buying some merch, goes in the description below. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, much love.